working for a startup company, or you're contemplating a startup company. And so this is going to be geared more towards some companies that are either in consideration or ones that have recently started, and really setting up the initial equity compensation. The framework. Who gets early compensation? And it comes in different forms and it goes to different people. But frequently it goes to the founders themselves who are putting some of the initial money up. It goes to the officers, and it goes to the key employees. And sometimes the founders may be all of these people. But it's really the people who are going to have a significant role in the value of the company and building the company. And they're the ones that you usually want to get equity to early, because you want to get it to them when it has a low value, when they pay low taxes, and let it appreciate, hopefully, at capital gains rates, if that will work. So, and sometimes in a company, particularly when the founders are putting all the money in, there'll be what we call synthetic equity, where employees will be granted equity that is really based on, it's really not true equity. It's synthetic equity. It really means they're going to get cash payments instead of equity, but they're going to be able to participate in the increased value of the company. They're just going to get cash out and not straight stock. Okay. This is sort of a list of the types of equity that we most frequently see with startup companies. A lot of people talk about stock options, but there are two different kinds of stock options, and they work very differently. So we're going to go through a little bit of the differences between the two types of stock options. Stock appreciation rights are a little bit less common, but they're still out there. Restricted stock has become very common. Restricted stock units even more typical recently, with some changes in the accounting rules. And then just sort of straight stock grants or phantom stock. A question for you all, because I notice people are taking notes, which is great. Do you have access to these slides afterwards? Is there a way that you can dial in? Will they have access to them if they want them?
They'll be posted on our SlideShare account. There's a link to it on our website.
Okay. The only reason I ask that is that when we get into some of the tax issues, I don't think you really want to hear me talk about all the tax issues. It'll be easier for you to just sort of pick that up online later on. Okay. Non-qualified stock options. These are the ones that you see the most, and they are the ones that can be granted to either employees or independent contractors. A lot of times with startup companies, you'll have some independent contractors that will come in and do some consulting work, and sometimes for their compensation, they're willing to accept stock options instead of cash if they think that the company is going to greatly increase in value. So non-qualified stock options are pretty common. And the basic tax of them is that when the option is granted to an employee, there's no income to the employee. But when the employee exercises the stock options, they're going to have ordinary income on the difference between the grant price, which is usually the fair market value when the option is granted, and the exercise price when they exercise. And if they're an employee, that's what we call spread, that difference, is going to be taxable at ordinary income tax rates, and it's going to be subject to withholding